like you. Be strong to hold the powers of the sun. To dream, believe in strength. Now I'm the only one, only one. I was an ordinary boy until I broke the rules. My life destroyed, life destroyed. Until I walk awake, scream my mind, I shout, the ground shakes. How much can I take? My mind will break. Will it break? What can I take? Can I be your superhero?
All right. I'm not sure what to use anymore. You know how people they emulate your stuff. I'm not sure what to use, and I don't want to be accused of copying anybody's stuff. So, as you know, I've been using them for a while now. Guys, you need to head down to 7 Brew and get you a blondie. Cures all your ills. I'm not going to drink all that, but a large is enough to get your motor running for sure. By the way, my name is 12 Gauge. Welcome to my channel, 12 Gauge Investigative. Let's see who is going to show up and say hello and grace us with their presence. Currently, right now, we just have Miss Rondi Potter here. Hello, Rondi. How you doing? If you don't know about this crime, this is really tragic. This is about a 19-year-old, and she was brutally murdered. So it kind of goes along with that other case that we always talk about. So if you guys like that other case, you might like this one as well. I guess I can go ahead and play the video first, and then here we go. Let me play the video, and then I'll do the article.
Why leave her that way?
The fact that she was killed somewhere else and then moved, that's just a very bold statement.
I just want to know why.
There was a person who was in the area the evening that her body was placed.
I think he knows where her remaining body parts are.
Around this neighborhood, you're smart enough to know. Shut your mouth and mind your business.
How many years is it going to take to not be afraid anymore, to want to step forward?
Lisa Monahan, News 9.
These people are still out there. 10 years.
Hello? Do you not know what those guys are capable of?
What did she say to you? I just want to talk to you.
We're sorry. You have reached a number.
You can only kick down so many doors.
Do you recognize her?
You can see that there's speckles here.
But that's evidence left behind. Your name keeps coming up in this investigation.
We have the Homeland store right here.
They think you're getting too close.
When you say she's living on the street, where would I find her? Don't ever jeopardize yourselves for these answers.
Did you kill Corinna Saunders?
No, I did not.
She was found in a field just right over.
Did you kill Corinna?
I've never murdered anybody.
We're here. Let's go.
You kidding me? You think this is somehow safe? Please leave.
Oh, right down there.
I think that getting too close definitely jeopardizes your life.
One way in and no way out.
The wire.
If you don't know where this case is from, it originates out of Oklahoma City, a small town called Bethany, Oklahoma. And this is where Corinna Saunders' investigation begins.
Are all these people coming up dead?
I just want to ask you a couple of questions.
The less that I knew, the better off I was. You know, I want the answers, but not at the cost of somebody else's life.
Someone savagely killed 19-year-old Corinna Saunders and continues to get away with it. For a decade, investigators have come up empty-handed. Suspects and evidence have seemed to fade, and friends who ask too many questions have met tragic ends. I'm investigative journalist Lisa Monahan, in search of the answers Corinna's family deserves.
Butterflies remind me of Corinna. It's like she's saying, don't give up on me. It's really a spiritual thing. The caterpillar basically dies. The caterpillar turns into the chrysalis, and then a butterfly is born from the essence. And that's why the butterfly is significant of rebirth. It's just so miraculous.
The butterfly in its brief existence can leave a lasting impression on the grief-stricken, a powerful representation of life, and in Corinna Saunders' case, death.
When we put her here, this whole part of the cemetery was empty practically.
Margie Queen and Richard Saunders know this place well. The feel of the breeze on a warm autumn day, how the sun warms the headstones. Maybe they know it too well. A decade after the murder of their daughter, Corinna's parents would like nothing more than to bury something else here: their grief.
October 10th, 2011, that's when Corinna was murdered.
It's hard to keep believing and hoping.
But they have warned us there will be no tears this visit. They refuse to give Corinna's killer or killers such satisfaction.
I've even thought up scenarios to spit in their face.
And yet they've kept their composure all these years through the case's traumatic twists and dramatic turns.
So you don't want to approach certain things with revenge and anger on your mind. And yet it's still an open case. So where's the justice?
10 years is a long time. A decade of opening old wounds and reliving the unimaginable in the slim hope that it might help. They have refused to give up, putting themselves out there time after time, daring to believe it will all someday pay off, that break in the case will come.
I would like.
I like that shirt. What if it was your child? Of course. What if it was your child? I'm sure a lot of people would not have the derogatory statement that they have on other cases if it was their child that was missing or murdered.
Like to be face to face with some of these people that might possibly know something. I would like to see their face. I would like for them to see my face.
Do you know what you would say?
What happened to my daughter? What did you do to her?
There are so many questions, haunting questions that demand answers. Why did Corinna Saunders end up here? She was only 19. Her body dismembered and shoved into bags. Who would do such a thing?
What could she have ever done? And why her? And for what purpose?
And the most unsettling, did she suffer?
I picture her crying out for me. I couldn't be there. That's what tortures me, and I hate using the word torture because she was tortured.
The murder of Corinna Saunders, while torture for her parents, was a major news event when it happened and has gripped me like no other case has in my career. 2 months and still no arrest. We obtained confidential information earlier this month. Charges would be dropped against the 2 suspects. With so many twists and turns in the case, since someone savagely murdered the 19-year-old, now 3 weeks after our exclusive report, for 10 years, Corinna Saunders' family has been waiting for justice. For Corinna's parents, the horrifying story began well before we picked it up. A story of a smart and loving 19-year-old with a promising future.
She was still a teen, 19. It's not like she was living out homeless for years and years and years. She was just barely out of high school, A year later, this happens.
October 13th, 2011 is where we come in. Bethany police began working the case and called on the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation to help with the crime scene.
I recall it being a very warm day, and there certainly was an odor of decomposition.
CSI agents immediately roped off the wooded area behind the grocery store at Northwest 23rd and Rockwell.
This is a disposal site. You don't know what could be out there. So is it just the body? Do we have other physical evidence?
With the investigation underway, we delivered the shocking news. Body parts had been discovered strategically wrapped in plastic, put into a duffel bag and a smaller laundry bag, and hidden.
That is just terrible. That is terrible. I can't imagine being their parents and finding out that their daughter was put in a duffel bag, in a laundry bag, and just thrown out behind a grocery store.
In plain sight along a tree line in Bethany, Oklahoma.
Obviously, those are areas where we want to concentrate our search for evidence. Evidence could be as small as, a shoe wear impression or, hairs or fibers or small things like that.
The search kept everyone in suspense, but they never found evidence pointing to the killer.
We have several names that we are following up on. Right now, we're not putting them out as persons of interest.
As Bethany police began digging further, they discovered Corinna was connected to the drug trade. Dealers, users, and addicts. A dark and well-concealed underground. An impenetrable organization in which people are too afraid to talk. And if they do, it's only enough to throw investigators off.
When you have a witness, you have to gauge their truthfulness by their motives for cooperating with you.
Bad information poisoned the investigation in its early stages, but that didn't become clear until Bethany detectives made 2 arrests in July 2012. At that point, Gary Eastridge, chief investigator in the Oklahoma County District Attorney's Office, began vetting the case for prosecution.
I kept looking for something that connected the 2 suspects with the victim, and I couldn't find anything definitive in my mind.
Eastridge soon discovered the detectives had based the arrest more on statements from alleged eyewitnesses than actual evidence.
In this case, many witnesses were addicted to methamphetamines. There were things that were told by witnesses that we knew were factually inaccurate.
Prosecutors had no choice but to dismiss the murder charges. To this day, witnesses are still changing their stories, and the statements as to how and where Corinna was killed conflict with each other.
I mean, that's what's troubling about this case is there was so much drug use. She was found with parts of her body not even attached to her. Cell phone missing, all kinds of stuff. 19 years old.
Meth use is not the only challenge. There was no crime scene ever identified.
To this day, there's not been a crime scene.
It's a case that begs to be solved if for nothing more than peace of mind.
So how to work this case, you just start from scratch like any other case and document your evidence as well as you can, follow every lead.
We are committed to doing just that, exploring the many theories surrounding this complicated case. Was Corinna's death retribution for an unpaid drug debt? Did she die to settle a score? Or the unfathomable, was her murder a case of mistaken identity?
I'm the last one that seen her at the casino. I'm the one that dropped her off. And it's haunted me for the rest of my life, the fact that I could have been her.
Next, we launch our own investigation, chasing down leads in dangerous places.
There's certain people that have dug a little deeper, that have walked into certain areas that they didn't walk out of.
I think that getting too close definitely jeopardizes your life.
I mean, for people to get killed when they're investigating this, I mean, that's sad.
There were several theories as far as the motive for the murder. There's lots of suspects in the case. Because of some of the lifestyle choices Corinna had made, she made that suspect pool very deep. There were numerous people who could have a reason to commit the murder.
Hidden somewhere in
Look
this
at all
network
those
of people is the truth of what happened to Corinna. But finding the truth means first finding people willing to talk.
We're sorry. You have reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in.
This case is a dangerous case. You can never be too safe.
Yes, 19 years old. She was just out of high school and she got addicted to drugs, started running with the bad crowds, and a lot of bad things happened to her.
Especially when dealing with someone who's capable of doing that.
We've agreed to hide your identity. Can you tell us what you're most afraid of?
These people are running free right now. They could do it again. They're dangerous people.
Those people, our confidential source says, are part of a mostly invisible society that operates in the darkest corners of the Oklahoma City metro and follows a strict no snitching code. Does it have you looking over your shoulder?
Yeah. It's just a scary environment to be around.
It's where Corinna lived out her final days and where investigators have concentrated their efforts.
No? Okay, that's what we're trying to find out.
I tracked down the original detectives, Jack Jinks and Austin Warfield, hoping to find out more about their investigation. Both are retired now. They left Bethany PD amidst criticism of their work on this case, and despite repeated requests, declined to be interviewed. The investigation is currently in the hands of the OSBI, which took over the case when irregularities were found with the Bethany investigation. Because Corinna's case is still active with the Bureau, her file is protected by a state law that prohibits the agency from releasing reports in the investigation. So we set out to launch our own investigation and spent the better part of a year in search of new leads. Covering Corinna's murder for 10 years, it wasn't hard to put together a list of the case's key players and places. It would be much harder to turn that list into real leads. People in this life don't want to talk. Just finding them can be hard enough.
At the time, Saunders' family told News 9 Massey knew about the murder.
It took us years to track down Jimmy Massey, one of the men originally charged with Corinna's murder. But in 2020, we convinced him to answer our questions and face Corinna's parents.
But did you know her?
No, I've never seen her. That is what I'm asking. Like, why did y'all single me out? Who was this girl that said all this stuff?
Your name came out of her mouth.
Are you ready? I'm ready.
We also arranged for Massey to take a polygraph test.
Did you cause the death of Corinna Saunders?
No.
No deception indicated. You passed this test, okay? You did really well.
Here we go.
Then there's Luis Ruiz, the other man initially charged with Corinna's murder. Prosecutors also dropped the case against him, and he settled a wrongful arrest lawsuit. We've been unable to find Ruiz since his release.
Okay, right?
But we were determined to find others. Looking at the map, we focused in this area where the lines blur between Oklahoma City and Bethany.
That's 911.
He passed a lie detector test, so I guess he was telling the truth. When it comes to the lie detector test, you are not the father.
The shadowy areas of the 15 square miles surrounding the field where Corinna's body was discovered in bags.
We've got a smell and a large black bag that has been hidden here, and we're not sure what it is. I think maybe you guys better check it out.
Our research showed most of the people connected to Corinna's case were within close range of the crime scene in 2011. Some are still here, while others, felons with long rap sheets, are in prison. We were warned other people tried to find out more about Corinna's death and turned up dead.
There's certain people that have dug a little deeper, that have walked into certain areas that they didn't walk out of.
Focused on Corinna, we decided to proceed, but with caution.
I'm investigating the unsolved murder of Corinna Saunders.
Wow.
Do you have any information you can help me out with?
Carrie Strobel is related to a person of interest in this case
Look
and
at
says
her
authorities
jaw.
have questioned her through the years. Early on, we went after people like Carrie, who were relatively removed from the situation, hoping they could safely give us information that would get us closer to the truth.
Everybody who was involved in this has split.
Why?
They're all scared.
I've been trying to find her.
She's on the street, literally. She's on ice and she's on the street.
I've been trying to track her down for some time.
Oh, you're the one she's running from.
She couldn't point us to the person we were looking for, but claimed to have information about a possible crime scene, a house where Corinna was rumored to have been killed.
It was set on fire.
The house was set on fire.
The house is now abandoned.
The house where this happened.
The house is all blacked out. All the windows are all blacked out. The windows that are standing are all blacked
Who
out.
owns that house now?
I don't know.
Carrie says she went by the house a few years after the murder, but couldn't remember the exact address. She tried to take us there.
We were on just this street of MacArthur, and the off-ramp was directly on this there.
Carrie couldn't remember the exact address of the house, but says she went by there a few years after the murder. She tried, to the best of her recollection, to take us there.
It will all make this whole story will make so much sense when you see that.
Okay.
But with the passage of so much time, it was evident that memories had faded.
Now, if I go straight, it dead ends.
You see, you should be able to see a highway. We walked all the way down pretty.
It also didn't help that the landscape had changed.
Can you see what you're talking about from here?
No.
Oh, right down there.
So after making the drive a few times,
Is that council?
we decided it was best to move on. We put it in our rear view, but I couldn't let go of the fact that Carrie's recollection of an abandoned house set on fire was very similar to investigators' narrative a month after the murder.
This case is just something else. I mean, I watched this earlier, so it's tragic in so many freaking ways. Like, people go to the extreme to hide criminal behavior. And to say that they just do the minimum, it's just very foolishly to think that, because the criminals that I've known, they go above and beyond. They might not be the smartest people when they're committing the crime, but they go above and beyond. They don't.
Burnt out two-story house known for drugs and prostitution is how Bethany police detectives described a possible crime scene in 2011.
There was some people coming and going most all hours of the night. You know, it was
It's strange.
Witnesses told detectives Corinna was tortured and killed at an abandoned home in South Oklahoma City.
I know there was 2 or 3 girls at one time over there.
Of the girls that you saw, did you ever recognize this one?
I think I seen that gal here. I think I have.
Bethany police used witness information to zero in on an exact location, 3500 South Harvey. Despite it being a 20-minute drive from where Corinna's remains were discovered, it had to be explored, if only to rule it out. Back then, detectives Jinks and Warfield followed the lead and made a shocking discovery. The house, a potential crime scene, was gone. I searched public records but couldn't find anything to suggest authorities had attempted to unearth evidence at that location. Others who have reviewed the case believe the tip was a long shot in the first place.
It never made any sense to me that the murder would happen miles and miles in both directions from where the body was recovered, and then that they would transport that body back.
So I had to get creative to find out more about this mysterious house and how or if it's relevant.
I figured it probably happened. Right here.
Up next, some digging on the internet uncovers a connection between the fate of the house and the fate of Corinna Saunders. Is it coincidence or something more? October 13th, 2011. The same day, a missing person case turned into a gruesome murder for police in Bethany.
We're learning more about the body found in a duffel bag in Bethany yesterday morning. Tonight, we're told they believe it's that.
On the other side of town,
The ME has done a preliminary exam.
something else was coming undone. The dilapidated 2-story house at 3500 South Harvey was leveled. Detectives didn't know it at the time, but the demolition of that infamous drug house, just as Corinna's remains are being discovered, could have destroyed key evidence in the case. Within months of the murder, women loosely associated to the initial suspects, Luis Ruiz and Jimmy Massey.
That's sad that you don't know that there could have potentially been evidence in that drug house and they tore it down. There goes all that evidence.
Went to police claiming they'd been kidnapped, blindfolded, and taken to the Harvey drug house where they were forced to watch the torture and killing of Corinna Saunders. If true, the timing of the demolition seemed too coincidental to ignore.
When I heard about it, I thought, man, it probably happened right there.
I started scouring the internet for any connection between Corinna and the house. According to online records, an Oklahoma-based property investor purchased it in July 2011 and got rid of it 3 months later. The demolition permit we discovered was submitted to the city October 12th. The approval was date stamped October 13th, 2011. The house came down that day. I reached out to the investor to ask why he bought the house in the first place. Records show he bought and kept other properties in the area. Why did he get rid of this one? Did something happen? This is Lisa Monahan with News 9 in Oklahoma City calling again about your property at 3500 South Harvey. I've been trying to reach you for a few months now. Countless calls went unanswered. I couldn't help but think he may have also ignored calls about the property back in 2011.
I went over there to complain about something, and I knocked on the door, and some gal answered the door, and I looked in there, and there was all kind of writings on the wall and stuff.
More than just an eyesore, neighbors described the house as a hotbed for drugs, prostitution, and violence.
People coming and going all hours of the night.
Bob Witt is the landlord at the apartment complex adjacent to the now vacant lot. He's been in the area for nearly 30 years.
It wasn't normal. They were stealing water from my hydrant over there. I don't even think there was any utilities on in the house. This guy that was living here or whatever.
So that's what you call a, what is it, boys and girls? That is what you call a trap house.
He was shady. I mean, he's the type you need to be careful.
Witt had a sneaking suspicion there was more to know about what went on here. I can understand redacting the witness information, but why the suspect? So I decided to check with Oklahoma City Police to see if any major crimes had been reported at that address around the time Corinna was killed. If so, those reports could contain information to help us identify this mysterious man we kept hearing about.
One particular guy. I've seen him more than anybody.
Like, how would you describe him if you could?
Wishy-washy.
I requested the 911 calls from that location and received a list of about a dozen, all made within a year of the murder. 4 were serious enough for police to make a report.
See, look at those pictures. That's what the inside of a trap house looks like. You see that? Writing on the walls, furniture, just stuff everywhere. No electricity, no running water. Doesn't look like a safe house. Doesn't look like a party house. Looks like a trap house.
We looked through the reports for even the slightest connection to Corinna. Nothing jumped out, but details of the crimes did fit with her lifestyle at that time. And we were able to confirm that convicted felons, sex offenders, drug dealers, and prostitutes were at the house in 2011. We also discovered police seized an array of guns and ammo, methamphetamines, and sex toys from the house before August 2011, before someone set the house on fire. The arson report didn't reveal much. Specific details of the fire were buried in reports that are not available to the public. And Oklahoma City Police heavily redacted the report before turning it over to us. The suspect's name was blacked out. We didn't have much to go on, just a partial description. A man in his early 40s, thin, approximately 5'10", with brown hair and eyes. It wasn't much, but it sounded familiar.
He was shavy.
A big, tall guy or a small guy or?
Medium size, probably 8 or 2, taller than me, probably slender than me. Oh, he was probably 10, 15 years younger than me.
Do you ever see anyone that fit that description around here?
Whit thought the sketch closely resembled the person he'd been describing to us, but wasn't certain.
That could have been the guy that I seen coming and going.
The OSBI released the sketch in 2020 after a witness came forward to report suspicious activity near the grocery store around the time of the murder.
I think this person said, oh, wow, I think that maybe I was there long enough or saw something that maybe no one else has reported on yet. And then there it is by itself. If I pick the eyebrows.
This is so
in this
cool right
instance, there was a person who was in the area the evening that her body was placed.
Special agent and forensic artist Travis Smitty interviewed the witness who remembered seeing a man in the field where Corinna's remains were found.
I thought that was so cool. I wonder if they did that in the Idaho 4 case, because you think of the old-timey sketch artists, but they were doing that on a computer. So I wonder if they did it like that on a computer in that case. If they did, that tells a lot.
We try to put them back into the moment and ask relevant questions that help us focus on the individual more so than the event itself.
After the interview, what happens?
The way that I like to proceed with these is you start with a basic face shape.
Facial tones, mustache.
We spend a lot of time focusing on facial features and the actual, the uniqueness of the person themselves. Once we've got the lips right, the nose right, the ears right, the eyebrows right, then we can add on the eyes. And once we've added on the eyes, that's when we really know if we're on track or not. Eyes are the most important part of a face that really draws people to who are you.
Several years after the encounter, the witness still had impeccable recall that allowed them to create this composite sketch.
Whatever we end up creating, that is essentially, it's their drawing or their composite. I am just a person that's trying to help them wade through all this.
At least it looks like a real person.
Unable to put a name to the sketch or the mystery man at the house on Harvey, we decided to follow up on the landlord's other lead. The graffiti he described on the walls inside the house.
I knew I wasn't going in that house because I seen stuff, paint or whatever it was, scribbling on the walls. Couldn't tell you what it was.
Although he couldn't tell us, I knew someone who possibly could.
I spent probably at least 2 or 3 years documenting what was going on that house.
Brian Bates of JohnTV.com was working in the area as an anti-prostitution activist in 2011.
Of all the landmarks in the South Robinson area, it was probably the most prolific. It could be known drug dealers, definitely known pimps. We would videotape all the comings and goings, trying to make people nervous there. But honestly, that was one of the residences where none of the standard tricks really worked. Nobody cared.
It was so bad, Bates wouldn't go alone to document the fire.
The place just gave you the creeps. There were needles strewn about, there were condoms strewn about. It was just not a safe place, and it certainly was not a welcome presence in the neighborhood.
I wanted to see for myself what the inside of the house looked like, if it truly matched with how witnesses described the crime scene. It is a rare perspective and one that could help us determine if Corinna was in the house prior to her death. It certainly sounded like a place Corinna would have gone with friends.
Yes, it was just a place to hang out to do the drugs.
Gabby Mize would know better than most. She was one of the only high school friends still hanging out with Corinna in the end. She described a house eerily similar.
We hung out there and smoked meth or whatever, but I have a very slight memory of the front of the house. I know that it had a carport, and there was a tarp thing on this side, like I think to make like a wall or something, and that the guy's bedroom was the garage. Like, we walked straight through to the garage.
What was his name?
I don't know. I have no idea. I know he's a tall, slender guy.
Yet another reference to the unknown man. But Mize said something even more significant.
The first time we were there to get high. And so we just went in this guy's garage and we just smoked, and I colored on the walls with a Sharpie, and Corinna, I think, colored some wet.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right here. And I'll probably come back to it later on. I gotta get some stuff done. I hope that y'all enjoyed that. I will come back and finish it up. Can you dig it? Can you dig it? If you can't dig it, get yourself a bigger shovel. Maestro. Cue that music. Where did it go? Maestro, cue that music. I don't know where it went. I will be back with this. I will definitely be back. You're welcome.